Welcome to Working for Charities, your half-hour weekly show where we introduce you to some amazing people in the state of Utah who make a big difference in lives for everyone, big and small. As always, I'm with the two best co-hosts you could ever have, Randall Carlisle, longtime newsman from Channel 4.
It's good to be back again. I work at Odyssey House now, but yeah, people probably remember my face a lot better than they do his, right?
I think, however, and your ratings were great, I think John Absey, formerly The Bear, for 25 years, you got out and made people just feel great about themselves in the state. And now that you've transitioned out of being a live mascot, you're putting your energies into charities and doing good in the community. And that's not too much of a difference from what you were doing before.
No, it's very similar, except I just don't have that tool and that vehicle to kind of use anymore now. Like you said, this right here, this is right. Not many people like this, so they like the bear look.
I was always curious, just for mascots in general, not specifically the jazz bear, but for mascots in general, if somebody comes up to you and says, "What do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
I always said I was just
you
doing
couldn't
promotions.
reveal.
Yeah, I never did. I always said I was doing promotions or something like that. I remember I got a great story sometime I'll tell you guys about.
Well, the TV show is a good time to tell it.
Yeah, that's.
And by the way, our guest, who we're going to get to, Rich, in just a second, John's going to introduce you, is also in the mascot business. So we have, I bet we're going to hear some good ones today. But go ahead, tell that story.
Oh no, I was going to say sometime off air I'll tell you guys a story.
It must be one of those.
It's one of those
stories.
So off air we'll tell you the story. But no, it's just pretty funny about how the funny things I'd say on what I did. I mean, anyway, it was just basically
Well, Larry Miller had a vision for the bear.
Yes.
And he wanted you to be out in the community, interacting with as many people, as many sick kids, strong kids, whatever, just being out there. And that's something that you really took upon yourself and made it grow exponentially.
Right. And that's the key is it wasn't necessarily just me. It was the support that I had from the Millers that helped me make it grow. And I think Larry had a saying, and if I'm not mistaken, it said, he wants to go out and do good until there's no more good to do, but and he really believed in that, and I mean they still do it today. And
yeah, Gail is following through in a big way, with the homeless situation and everything. She's contributed millions of dollars.
Oh, so. Super impressive family, and I had a chance to read his biography, and Larry H. Miller's, and it was fabulous. But as a mascot, you have a soft spot for mascots. So tell us about the first charity and Rich, who we're going to meet today.
The mascotting for 25 years, I ran into a lot of people, and Rich Ellis was one of the guys that I ran into about 9 years ago, maybe 10. It was before we actually started things. Yep. But
in costume, you guys met each other or not?
I don't know how we met each other.
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean we've done lots of stuff in costume together.
But we knew each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And but I guess where it all comes down to is he told me about this idea he had about creating a charity to help kids that with cancer and stuff that were passing, and I'll be danged, he took the time, he put all the energy into it, and I wanted to help him out as much as I could, but with what I was doing and what he was doing, I couldn't. I would have never been home with the amount of appearances this man does. Holy heck. Can I swear?
No, you cannot. So, well, first of all, let's answer this properly. Yes, I'm fully prepared to think a bear can swear, but we prefer if you didn't. How's that? But I think you can.
Okay, I'll try and keep that to myself. So, but then what he's done in the short amount of time with his charity and the number of kids that he has touched is insane. It's really mind-boggling in the amount of work that he's done and how well it's come together. And now there's like a bigger picture even. I mean, it was like what he was doing was amazing, and his next step, and all we're waiting for, and I'll let him tell you about it, is some land, and if it all comes together, it'll be huge for the state, for everybody.
Well, fantastic. Well, first of all, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You were nice enough to say really good things to Randall when you met him. You've been a fan of his, watched him for years and years.
Yep.
You and I have a much more we've got a tough relationship. I
Yeah.
insult you when I'm doing PA at the football stadium. You and your partner, we have so much fun.
It is a lot of fun.
But you, just seeing you out there, and Felix and your partner
Flex.
Flex and Felix, you get out there
Thanks for
and
giving that away.
get you get out there with these kids, and it's amazing to see how immediately comfortable they are with you, especially kids that are coming in pretty sick.
Yes.
That connection's got to make you feel real good.
It's awesome. It's heartbreaking at the same time, but it is. I don't know what it is. I guess these kids think of us as life-size teddy bears. It's the best way to think of it. And any kid that's sick, they want to hold a teddy bear. And all of a sudden, this life-size mascot comes up, and that's what they latch onto. And we come up with an idea, and I presented it to John and my son 6.5 years ago, of creating a group that we could all get together, all the mascots in the state, we could get together and create experiences for these families that are going through, traumatic situations. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff when we started was as cancer. And the very first girl that we worked with, her name was Macy Graham. We created an experience for her. She was 7 years old. She wanted to have a surprise birthday party. And we were just barely trying to get our 501c3 and still establishing Facebook back then. And I came across this little note from her mom. And it kind of went through the description of how this little girl wanted her goosebumps already, 7th birthday party, or her 8th birthday party to play out. And she never asked for a present. All she wanted to do was go around the block and come back to her house and have somebody say surprise. And now what 7-year-old asks for nothing for their birthday? So this intrigued me, and I reached out to her mom and said, you don't know who I am. This is a group that we've created, and we want to create experiences for children such as your daughters. Give me a little bit more detail. Well, detail was she's a single mother, has no money because of all the cancer treatments and everything else. I mean, she's basically living day to day. And she goes, I don't have anything to give to my daughter for her birthday. And I said, well, okay, I don't want to ruin any surprises, but kind of give me an idea what your daughter would like to have, or what is she like? She goes, she loves princesses. She loves Disney. Belle is her favorite. Okay. I'm going to create this party. I'm not going to tell you anything about it because it's going to be a surprise for your whole family. You don't know who I am, but I need you to trust me on this. But I promise you it's going to be more than just going around the block and saying surprise. Okay. I had no idea what we were doing. This is our very first experience that we created. And I had no idea when I got off the phone with her. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? I had no idea. And so immediately I got on the internet. I go, okay, she loves Princess Belle. Okay, we got to find her a princess. So I find a company that rents out Disney princesses, and I found a Belle. And then I'm like, well, this little girl doesn't have any hair because of her treatments, so we got to get her a wig. We got to make her look like a princess. So we ended up having a wig made for her, and we ended up having a Princess Belle dress custom made for her. And we found a carriage company that had a Cinderella type carriage.
Wow.
And so I contacted them. And then we kind of hit a roadblock with the city of Sandy saying, you can't do this. You guys don't have any permits. I'm like, well, the permit thing, we're going to work around that, but this party is going to happen for this little girl regardless. So I called the mayor. Immediately called the mayor, Sandy, and he jumped all over it. He's like, okay, forget the permits. Yeah. I'll take care of it. So we got the mayor and the fire department, the police department. And on the day of her party, we showed up, and Princess Belle showed up ahead of time and went in and got her all dressed and everything. Mom still had no idea what was going on. They look out the window and they see a fire truck in front of her cul-de-sac, and that's all they could see. Well, Macy, she had one leg from the knee down cut off because that's where her cancer was. And so she couldn't walk or anything else. And that day we had, 14 mascots show up?
At least, yeah.
And one by one we went into the house and gave this little girl a rose. And it was very touching, very moving. The mascots now realize what's going on, and they're all bawling. And here comes the bear. Confetti everywhere in the house. From this emotional moment to, okay, forget it, we're done.
Sorry.
And it went to heck in a handbasket just like that. But it was awesome because she was down on the floor and she was throwing confetti up just like she was having a party. And that's what she wanted. And so then I picked her up and I carried her outside. And as soon as I carried her outside, the fire truck moved. And here's this princess carriage.
Oh,
and that's when the reality of what Mom envisioned, this really perfect party, kicking in, and she starts bawling. And I carry her out and put her in the carriage. And we ran around her neighborhood, and all of her neighbors were outside, just like she had her own private parade. They were waving to her and everything else. And we were gone about 20 minutes. And by the time we got back, we were nicknamed the Zoo. And that was 6.5 years ago. And we're still known, all the mascots in the state are known as the Zoo. So if you ever hear, oh, the Zoo's coming, it's not Hogle Zoo, it's here comes the mascots. They're known as the Zoo.
And you guys are probably a little less safe sometimes out.
Yeah,
I hope
for sure.
They've got rangers around to round you guys back up.
So we got real close with this little girl for the next 3 months. Did a couple other things with her, and then unfortunately, the fun turned to not so fun. Yeah. And she went into cardiac failure. And because of all the medications they put in her fragile little body, her heart couldn't take it. And I remember her mom calling me up to the hospital and saying, "Can you come visit my daughter? She's in cardiac failure. She's not going to make it through the night." And I'm like, she doesn't know who I am. She's never even seen me out of costume. It doesn't matter. All she talked about was the Zoo for the last 3 months. That's all I've had to listen to. Just come up here and give me some support. So my wife and I went to the hospital, and long story short, 3 days later, she ended up passing away. And her mom asked the mascots to be her pallbearers. And so we went to the mortuary, and we were her pallbearers. And you can hear all these mascots. I think there was 10 of us, because there was only 6 of us hold the casket, and then we had a bunch of us walking behind it and stuff. And all you could hear is all the sniffling and everything else, trying to keep the composure. And I remember Bear, and he couldn't handle it. I mean, it was tough on all of us. And he put his arm around me. He says, "Don't ever make me do this again." He says, I can't handle this." He goes, "No." I said, "Tell me about it. I can't deal with it either." But it's what it is. And so we carried her casket, and we did a nice tribute, with roses and everything at the graveside. And I remember leaving the mortuary, or the funeral, and told my wife, I said, "We're done. Forget this. It's not going to happen." I said, "I didn't buy off on burying children. Yeah. We're here to have some fun and create experiences, not to carry a casket." And I remember 3 days after that, I got a phone call from, I don't even remember who it was, but it was another cancer mom. And the first 3 words out of her mouth was, "How dare you?" I had no idea who this person was. "How dare you?" were the first 3 words that came out of her mouth. And I was livid. I'm like, "How dare I what? I don't even know who you are." And she's like, "How dare you close down something that made such an impact on a family?"
Wow.
I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry. I still don't know who you are, but I didn't buy off on burying a kid. When I created this foundation, I created fun and created memories and experiences." And she says, "That's why you were the pallbearer at her funeral, because you made such an impact on her life and her family's life." She's like, "This isn't about your mascots anymore. This is about what you're going to help create in the future. So it's time for you to put up the phone and get back to work, because you've got a lot of work to do."
Talk about a tough love call.
I'll tell you what, I was so mad when I hung up the phone, and I told my wife, I said, "I don't know who that was, but I would like to slap somebody. I really do." And by the next day, I realized, maybe she had something there. And unfortunately, John has never done another one. I've actually done it 15 times.
15.
You've been
think of the feelings you left for the last 3 months of her life. Yeah. I mean, that's so significant and tough on you guys.
It's horrible.
But the significance to her would have just been incredible.
I mean, that's the kind of impact that these mascots make. I mean, they're just almost immediately become family. And it's not bragging in any shape or form. I mean, I hate it. I would rather every illness in this country be eliminated, and I shut this foundation down rather than carry another kid to their gravesite. But it is what it is, and it's an honor to be asked to do that great honor. But holy hell, I'm sorry for my French. It's horrible. It's absolutely.
You guys are terrible.
Yeah, I know mascots are swearing like crazy.
Beforehand, can I swear before you swear?
It's
not that we're going to listen to what you and Randall say, but
it's traumatic, and we've lost well over 50 children over the last 6.5 years. And I've just got notified today, there's 2 others that are on hospice right now that are just, buying their time. And it's a hard lesson we've had to learn over, 6.5 years, that we can't control that. We don't control the outcome of what these kids go through, but we can control a moment in time. Yep. And that's what we do.
How do you raise money?
Most of the stuff we've done has been in kind donations. It's been really nice. We haven't had to do too many fundraisers. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is in September, and it's our Masquerade Banquet. That's our big gala. But up till this year, we really haven't had to focus on that. Just we've had the community has stepped up and has jumped forward on our cause. And wow, you know what? This is awesome. You know, we get the mascots and groups coming in here and wreaking havoc on our venue, and it's way cool. I mean, we get the entire Heber Creeper at Christmas time and put on a Polar Express run. That's really cool, and the mascot's going to be part of that. And
I will say, with all the charities that I have done stuff with, that Mascot Miracles is probably one of the most active and event-driven charities I've ever been around. They're constantly doing stuff, constantly creating moments, constantly creating big events, and because they'll go from everything from a moment with one child to an event that we're trying to bring 900 families to, which is another good, or not good thing, but it's another important fact to bring up, is the fact that when Rich started Mascot Miracles, they only had 20 families
the first year,
and now we have almost 1,000, right?
962
families now
that are registered with us.
So we try, they try to create these events that all the families can come to and take part in. I think the best part that we've talked about this, is the best part that I see is with some of these families, the children and the parents are a little uneasy going out in public because they get judged and people kind of point and people talk. But when we can create an event like the aquarium, where we bring in 2,000 people, and all these families, their anxiety level drops because they're all like-minded individuals. They know that, they know what's going on with everybody. And what's really cool to see is how when the mascots come in, all these kids have their favorite character and they run over to them. And so all the kids are hanging out with characters. You'll see parents over here and talking about different things. And, if me and you have a child with the same, disease, we talk about different things that we're doing to help different, ailments.
Sure.
So, but it's, and that's what I see, is I just see this bonding, and it's like a family. Almost like a big barbecue when you bring the family together. It's like they all come together, everybody knows everybody, and it's a great time.
It's a brilliant idea because everybody loves mascots.
Not everybody. There's a few that are scared to death, but yeah.
Well,
Have you had
We
that
have fun with
reaction
those.
where you had a kid, Rich, where all of a sudden,
On what do you mean? As far as
being
figuring
a
it
little,
out?
No, being a little scared of the mascot.
Oh yeah.
Little kid.
All of our kids, they range anywhere from 2 years old on up to, we have them in the 30s and 40s because of different ailments that they still have a mindset of 3 or 4 year olds. But mostly it's 2 years old on up to 18. And the 2 year olds, they don't quite get it. Some of them do. Some of them think it's really cool and they love you and everything else. But it's not just. And this is one thing we've tried to focus on. It's not just the child that has the health condition that suffers. It's everybody in the family. If you have a child that has cancer and they're constantly up at primary children, we have one right now that's been up there for the last 18 days. And that's where the parents are every single day. Mm-hmm. So those kids, not that they do it on purpose by any means, but they have to put their kids babysitters. And so those kids kind of get pushed aside because they have to focus on the child that's sick. And so those kids, they just want some attention as well. So everything we do is all family oriented. It's not just for the child that has the health condition, but everything is all family driven. And so all the families get to come and they get to have just as much fun as their sibling. And we really stress that that's important. That it's not just that child that's have to pay that price of having the health condition, because the whole family suffers.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons you're probably super busy, and I got this for being involved in Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation, is that we sent a lot of families from Las Vegas up to Salt Lake because the quality of medical care is so great here. One of the best child oncology programs in the world. And we're so lucky, but it's a burden for these families to come up here. And we're going to get a chance to meet some wonderful people on our next show from Ronald McDonald House who help out. But just assuming that a child can get sick and that all the resources in the world are going to be there for the family to make everything work is naive. It's not the case.
No,
and you see that firsthand.
Oh,
Rich.
yeah. There's no doubt. And you have some of these health conditions that have, when there's a couple of them in the state, that they're like only 3 or 4 of them in the entire country. And no one's going to put that type of research into 3 or 4 people. And that's sad that these families don't even have a chance, to try to figure out really what's wrong with some of these kids. They kind of get in this thing of an undiagnosed type thing, and they don't get that much funding, and it's a horrible shame. And The children's cancer kit's hardly anything compared to like breast cancer or anything like that. I mean, it's a shame to see the amount of money that does not go into these children. And, you know, they deserve to be able to grow up. You know, you and I, all of us had dreams of what we wanted to become, you know, when we grow up. These kids hope for tomorrow. These families hope that they could wake up and see their kid tomorrow. They don't have 5-year dreams. They have it tomorrow. And that's what they grasp onto. And the problem with what we have at being 962 families, there's not a venue big enough for us to create a private event. We can go out and we can get a bunch of tickets for the Grizzlies and the Jazz and stuff like that, but that's not private. We want our families to have something private to where they're not going out and being pointed at and being talked about, and they're different because they have a feeding tube, or they're bald because of the cancer, or they have a leg missing, or they're in a wheelchair, or they have Down syndrome. We want to create private events for these kids, and they deserve it. And
what do you guys need?
So
That's the point of this program, is to help charities.
So what we've announced last September is going forward, we are going to create an indoor all adaptive amusement park.
Wow.
Regular kids have Lagoon. These kids don't have anything. They go to Lagoon if they're missing a leg or if they have serious health conditions. Lagoon.
So you've been to Randall's house then. You know he's got the room.
Yeah, right.
So
I'm donating.
basically Lagoon kind of turns them down and says, you know what, you're a liability. We don't want, that's not fair. These kids deserve to have a place where they can go free of anything, of anybody putting them down. And so we're going to create that here in Utah. We've got a couple locations that we're working on land right now. It was going to be called the Mascot Miracles World of Dreams. We've actually changed that idea to Mascot Miracles Zoophoria, because of the nickname the zoo from the little girl, and euphoria. And if you look up the word euphoria in the dictionary, it basically says something creating huge excitement, and that's what we do. Wow. So Zoophoria is coming to the state of Utah, and we're going to be needing some huge funding. It's going to be a huge project. We're working on like 100 acres to make this happen.
Wow.
But we have a bunch of large contractors and companies that are just waiting, chomping at the bit, asking us every week, okay, when's this announcement? We're ready. So that the community is ready. We have a couple ideas, how to launch a couple campaigns to raise quite a bit of money, and when we roll that out, we'd love to have you guys be part of it. And
So Rich, what kind of capital contribution would you need to do something like that? It's got to be $2 or $3 million at least, I would think.
You can add a couple more zeros behind that. It's probably a $1 billion project by the time it's said and done. The state of Utah is 100% behind it. We've already met with Senator Stuart Adams up at the Capitol building. Took one of our heroes up with us, and he fell in love with her, and he's like, mark my words, this will happen in Utah. So the state of Utah is behind it. So we're kind of excited. It's kind of a big deal, just a little bit.
$1 billion big deal. Yeah.
You know, if we can cut that down, that would be great. But a lot of it's going to be, we already know a lot of it's going to be donated by a bunch of people. So that's just kind of what it would be if we had to put a price tag on it. But
what a legacy you guys would leave by doing something like that, John. You know.
No, you know it. I mean, this is all Rich. He's the one who
no, it's not.
Has been driving through all this. It's
all of us.
I just find that, you know, we were fortunate, or I was fortunate, and he's still fortunate, to be able to go out and have, like I said before earlier, that vehicle to help kids. You know, I mean, it's just, it really was a blessing to be able to mascot and to be able to get out in the community and give back and do stuff like that. And that's why, you know, MMF is kind of near and dear to my heart. But it really does. It makes such a difference in not only the child's life, but the family's life. You know, and I do want to say one thing. So when he was talking earlier about the diseases and all that stuff that these children have, I was fortunate enough to be at the Stick Horse Rodeo, and we were sitting there, and as they were announcing the kids, and they were announcing what each child has, I literally, I mean, I've done a lot of charity stuff, and I've heard of a lot of diseases. I just sat there, and I shook my head, and I don't remember who I walked over to, and I put my arm around him, and I went, I have never heard of these diseases, these disabilities. I think one of them was like a number. It didn't even have a name. It was a number. Do you remember? It was like 1149.7. it was, and I was like, I mean, as a parent, what do? You're not talking about a child with just, a common disease
Bone
or
cancer,
yeah,
blood cancer.
You're talking about something that nobody really has, and doctors can't really explain to you what's happening because they don't even know. I mean, literally a number. And I was just like, I don't know. I feel horrible for these parents because, and I'm sure you felt that. I know I felt it. When you can't get those answers, you feel kind of helpless. And there's nowhere to turn. And when you don't have anywhere to turn for help, I don't know. It's frustrating. And a real helpless situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And you and all your visits to the hospitals over the years, thousands of visits.
Yep.
You probably have some memories that are pretty incredible. Do you have one that maybe similar to what happened with Rich? Do you have one family where just the bear being there made such a difference and you could feel it?
You know what? I do have one, but it's not even with the bear. And I don't know why this one sticks out in my head so much, but I went up to the hospital and I tried to get some players to come with me, but all the players were gone. And so I reached out. If you know Matt Asiata, played football.
Sure.
So I called him and I said, hey, would you be willing to come up and do some visits with me? And I'll tell you what, is the cool thing about athletes is that, they have this kind of hard exterior, you know what I mean? And when Matt and I got up into the hospital, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, like, he was so soft and so kind to these little kids. And there were some nurses that were actually crying because, he had leaned over and this little girl and her hands were kind of bandaged. And he had leaned over and she was just kind of boxing his nose and she was smiling and the nurses were freaking out because she had been just so docile for weeks. And that was like the first time they saw this little child kind of smile and laugh, and it was all with Matt. But I mean, so that moment sits out in my head. I mean, there's a ton of moments, but that one, I just love when I see other people be able to just open up and embrace what's going on and give back. So thank you, Matt. That was great. You did great.
Yeah, I was always wondering when I saw you out doing the things you were doing, and I'd see the smiles on kids' faces, what your face looked at underneath the costume, because nobody ever knew. It looked like you were smiling all the time.
With a lot of sweat running down.
Yeah, right. Must have been very touching, though, because you never revealed your feelings because you couldn't.
Right. It honestly, I mean, and this is something once I was done being the bear, the one thing that I noticed, or the one thing that I actually felt good about is when I was doing all these events, because we were doing so many, that I wasn't really sure if I was making a difference. I don't know how to explain that, but I mean, because you're out there, you do it, and I'm in and I'm out, but I don't get to hang out afterwards or before to talk to anybody. So I come in, I do my bit, and then I leave, and so I never really knew if I was making a difference. So anyway, once I was done, it was amazing to me how many people came up to me and talked to me about events that happened 10 years ago.
Sure.
And they were just like, you came to my son's, hospital room and you did this and this. And I'm like, holy hell, you remembered that. I mean, that was near and dear to my heart, is just knowing that, it actually made a difference.
So I will add to his making a difference, because I remember one occasion about 3 years ago, we got a phone call from a grandpa, a little boy named Gavin. And like John said, I didn't really pick on him a whole lot because I knew how busy he was, but I knew if I called him, he knew it was important. And Gavin, fortunately, had cancer. He was going to pass away, and he hadn't been coherent for 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And Grandpa just said, hey, is there any way you can just come say goodbye to him? We don't think he's going to make it through the night. He's not going to know who you're there, but it would mean a lot to my family and his sister especially if you could come out. So I called John and said, hey, John, you want to go visit Gavin with me? Yeah. Him and I took off and went to the house. And I remember we walked in the door, and Grandpa said, hey, Gavin, Bear's here. And I kid you not, immediately this little kid's eyes opened.
Wow.
John never come out of character very often unless it was a moment that he knew he needed to. And he went up, whispered to Gavin, and they had a little moment, hugging each other. And then he turned to his little sister, gave her a big hug. Sister's blowing him, and he talked to her as well. And that's what it meant to him to hear the bear was there. Woke him right up. He ended up passing away that night, but John was part of that with us. And then a month later, his grandpa, they didn't want to do a funeral. They wanted to do a day of celebration. And so Gavin was huge into baseball. He had a huge baseball team that he played for, and he loved baseball. And so we actually went out and played a game against his team.
all
the
mascots
all the
in
mascots,
uniform?
yeah.
Wow.
And it was just supposed to be a fundraising thing. We were going to play like 2 or 3 innings, just to bring the community out. And we ended up playing a full game with these kids, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. And we played a full game, and then pretty soon we had their siblings coming out on the field, and we were like 20 people on each team, and we just had fun. It was the coolest day ever, and what a great celebration of this little boy's life. But
He was awesome. I thank you for inviting me to that. That was awesome. I mean, it's nice to know that, with a situation like that, and the grandpa was so thankful, and being able to be with Gavin before he went.
Wow. Hey, Rich, thanks so much
My
for
pleasure.
coming
Thanks
on
for
our
having me.
inaugural show.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
The
You guys
woman who
do
called
great
you
work.
and said, "How dare you think about quitting?" That must have been the worst
She
phone
needs an
call.
award. It was the worst day of my life at that moment, but it was definitely a day that turned. And
That's
I'm
amazing.
grateful for that, because we wouldn't be.
We're all grateful for that, man. I'm just glad that you didn't quit. That's awesome. I'm just glad it keeps going.
So on your screen, we've got Rich's contact information. It'll be right up there.
Can I go like
Website.
this? Is it like? Can we put it right above my finger?
That's right.
Yes, we can. We can do whatever we want. Rich, again, thanks so much for coming out.
My pleasure.
What a really interesting kind of a lot of heartstrings being pulled there, but there's some great things. So if you can do anything to help Mascot Miracles Foundation, please give either Rich a call or go on their website at the bottom of the screen here. It's a great organization. They do amazing stuff, and if you want to make the old expression, if you want to feel good, do some good. And this is a great group. Thanks for watching. For Randall Carlisle, John Absey, I'm Trip Mitchell saying we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, and have a very, very wonderful